கீத்து வந்து Mm.
Well, since everyone is here, we should get started. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to you. The journey. Oh, am I audible? Hello? Yes. Thank
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you. So, once again, good evening to everyone. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So, here we are taking the first step with launching of Samunati Masterclass Series, a 5-week series aimed at assisting agritech and food tech startups to become market ready. So that I am your host and moderator, Anupriya. Thank you for taking your time to join us today. Now, I call upon Mr. B. Gopalakrishnan for the welcome address and context setting. Welcome, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am B. Gopalakrishnan. People call me BG. I'm the head of Samunati Startup Initiatives. On behalf of Samunati, I once again welcome you, everyone, for the Samunati Masterclass series, a 5-week series aimed at assisting agritech and food tech startup to become ready for the market. Samunati is an open agritech network to unlock the $1 trillion plus potential of Indian agriculture with the smallholder farmers at the center of it. Samunati works closely with the agritech startup in providing both non-financials and financial services. Our pillar of engagement deeply focuses on founder development, market readiness, and investment readiness of the agritech startups. As a part of our continuous engagement, we are hosting the Samunati Masterclass series, a unique series of curated sessions of agritech startups with a theme of winning big with dreams. The purpose of the Masterclass series is to provide curated seminars, panel discussions, and bootcamp for the agritech startup to gain knowledge, skills to be applied in realizing their true market potential. So let me start with a small story, a toffee story. So over the years, we have the practice of giving away toffees instead of the remaining change because the prevalent at all the stops. If you go for any shops, whenever you ask for a change to be given, they give a toffee instead of the exact tendering amount which has to be given back to the consumer. So due to pandemic, there is a lot of shift which has happened with respect to contactless and the invent of UPI. Today, the toffee sale is coming down drastically with respect to the tendering amount which is being given on UPI. So if you ask any amount of changes which is required, now today it has been offered in UPI. So the shopkeepers are not giving any kind of toffees and the sale of that which is coming down. So anything which you are doing with respect to a product or solution, it has to be very disruptive and which has to have a high impact for any customers, which is being available for any consumers. Today, the session will give an insight on how to unleash the billion-dollar opportunities in agritech and food tech sector, which would be kicked off by Honorable Padma Bhushan Dr. Ajay Chaudhary and Mr. Anil Kumar HG. So I welcome you once again for this particular session and request every participant to make use of the session for this masterclass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. BG. So this is the agenda for today's event. So to make sure we are helping you as best as we can on the topic, we have a chat box to post your queries. Through the chat box, you can address all the queries to your guest and your questions will be answered by the end of the session. So without any further ado, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Anil Kumar SC, founder and CEO of Samunnati. With 3-decade-long agri, rural, and retail banking experience, Mr. Anil have received awards and recognitions from several forums, including Economic Times Social Enterprise Startup Award in 2010 and Nanayam Vikatan Business Startup Champion Award for 2021, and is a member of various committees and task forces formed by national and state level industry associations such as FICCI, CII, TAI Chennai, and Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industries. For the past decade, he has been working tirelessly to make the market work for smallholder farmers, which is also the vision of Samunnati. We are excited to hear about the double click story of agriculture for startup founders to benefit from. And in Robert Baton Paul's words, try and leave this world a little better than you found it. I request Mr. Anil to deliver the keynote address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Anupriya. Uh, Dr. Ajay Chaudhary, very good evening to you. Thank you for taking out time, sir, to inaugurate the masterclass series that our enthusiastic team is putting together to be able to inspire and enthuse the larger agri ecosystem enthusiasts that we are seeing, right? So thanks a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking out time to join the first of the masterclass. Anupriya, my profile is read out by you. You can actually take it off, and just come to the grid view, so that
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, wanted to share a couple of ideas as a fellow entrepreneur, as a fellow traveler in your journey. Right. First, on the timing that's so critical for every enterprise. As they say, when you have spotted the wave, you are already late. How do you ride the wave is most critical. And we entrepreneurs and startups in multiple areas are supposed to be spotting the wave much before others and be ready to ride the wave. And once you have seen the wave, you are already in the queue, so to say. So I'll talk a little bit about it. And second, our own understanding as Samunnati, and having spent 25 years in the rural and agri space, my own understanding of the ecosystem and how do we work together as a collaborative force to unlock this huge potential that is awaiting to be unlocked, with the farmer at the center of all the interventions. So first, on the timing part of it, as Adi Shankara says, three things are very difficult. He says these are durlabham. It's very difficult to have three things come together. First and foremost is the birth of being a human being. The human life is one rarity, right? The second one is having this jigyasa, having this curiosity as to why am I born? Why am I in this world? Why have I come here? Is the other rarity, other durlabham, And the third one is, once you have started thinking, why have I come here? Finding a guide or a master or a guru who can handhold us and show us why we are born. Combination of these three is very difficult in anybody's life. So if you apply the same analogy to we, the entrepreneurs, right? First and foremost, taking the plunge to do something on our own is like a rebirth for a professional, right? You are basically taking a leap of faith in what each one of us believe to be to be something that we have to solve. Second one, that itself is difficult. Many people don't even cross the line. I have had innumerable instances and examples of people not able to cross the line for various reasons. The comfort of an employment, the risk of a failure in an enterprise, the familial responsibilities, what have you. We have our own sets of decision making parameters that we get into, and hence crossing the line and being a startup or being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's a difficult decision to make. So that's the first one. The second one is the ecosystem energetic enough to support the entrepreneurs. How is the ecosystem? We all talk about the Silicon Valley. We all talk about the technology revolution. We all see fantastic set of companies that have taken birth in a particular era. Dr. Ajay Chaudhary perhaps would have seen that era as part of HCL. That era was the most conducive time for fantastic companies to take birth, and that can be attributed to the timing part of how the ecosystem was, how they were supporting each other, how the policymakers, how the constituents who are looking at getting into this space, they all looked at the ecosystem. From a timing perspective, you see agriculture is in the cusp of unlocking a huge potential, and the environment is right. And since we are in agriculture, we also need to bring in the analogy of agriculture. It's like the seeding. Some seeds fall on rocks and some in the crevices, as they say, and some fall in the fertile soil, and those that fall in the fertile soil are the ones that germinate. Now, the soil is fertile for agri-entrepreneurship is what I'm driving from here. The soil is fertile for agri-entrepreneurship, and and we can only germinate and blossom as enterprises in this kind of the external environment. And the third one is the support system that has emerged and that is emerging, both from the dimension of the incubators and various other support entities that are coming up to nurture even a remote idea into a possible POC is significantly higher in these times. There are innumerable number of incubators that have come up, innumerable number of accelerators that have started firing full cylinders in agriculture. At the same time, private capital is also flowing quite encouragingly in the startup space. I'm sure most of you, the participants here, are aware of the number of angel investments, number of seed investments, number of early stage investments that agri entities are attracting, and a combination of all the three, being an entrepreneur, having a fertile soil, and which means an enabling environment, and private capital and support structure coming in is similar to the three things that Adi Shankara has said. And hence it is imperative on us to unlock this kind of an ecosystem that rarely comes in our lives. And how do we harness this potential is one idea that I would like to leave with all the fellow entrepreneurs. The other one is more an insight that I would like to share on the agri ecosystem. Most of us keep talking about the smallholder farmers having less than 2 hectares and how difficult it is and how vulnerable they are. All is true, and the vehicle called farmer producer organizations, the FPOs, are engaging with the farmers in an aggregated manner through a collective is a potent opportunity that all of us have in terms of harnessing this potential of reaching out to the farmers. But then if you go back into the balcony and see the entire agri ecosystem in toto, you would also realize that the agri ecosystem is also fragmented significantly, right? All of us know that it is a large sector, $250 billion sector, contributing to close to 20% of our GDP. But then if you look at some of the major sections of agriculture as a sector, so you have inputs as one dimension, you have output or post-harvest as another dimension. Then you have the BFSI players in the agriculture as one category. Then you have the research institutions and advisory services providers as another category. Then you have the policymakers, government as one category. So if you take each of these categories, they are humongously large in themselves. They are universes in themselves. Take inputs as an example. You double click on the input, you basically get seeds, crop protection chemicals, and farm equipment as three major subcategories, right? These are still subcategories. Double click on seeds. Then you have multiple subcategories within the seeds as a subcategory, which are basically hybrid, genetically modified, open pollinated, right? All of these. And then each of these subcategories have entities that are in seed replication, right? Now, each of these entities in seed replication are the ones which are looking at engaging with the fragmented landholding smallholder farmer. Now look at the dichotomy of agri as an ecosystem in terms of how fragmented it is. And we are still only one sliver of inputs. Similar is the case in the crop protection chemicals, the fertilizers and say pesticides and weedicides. Fertilizers grow, pesticides kill. Again, these two are subcategories. Double click on that, then you have multiple varieties of each of these, and then I will not belabor the point. Every subcategory has innumerable number of players, and each of these players again have their own dealer, distributor, retailer network, and looking at the smallholder farmer at the fag end of the inputs value chain. So how do we, as people who are looking at unlocking this potential, understand the dynamics of this fragmented ecosystem and bring in our ingenuity, our entrepreneurial quotient, so to say, in harnessing and harmonizing this movement of goods and cash in this fragmented ecosystem would be a significant driver of success in the entrepreneurship in agriculture. Because it's important to collaborate. It is important to understand this, missing links, and where do we bring in the glue to make all the players, operate. I'm a big believer of collaboration in agri space. If anybody talks about disintermediation in agriculture, then we are getting things not so right, so to say. Disintermediation needs to happen on the volume, not as mathematical formula. So we have to collaborate as an ecosystem and do things where all of us can come together. And in that, again, fellow entrepreneurs will have to look at how do I price my product. Some products have to be bundled, some products have to be, embedded in the overall scheme of things. Again, keeping the farmer at the center, adding value to the farmer, and then getting paid for that value is the most plausible way to engage with the smallholder farmer. So friends, these are the two things that I wanted to share with you as a fellow entrepreneur, as a fellow traveler in this journey. Really excited to have Dr. Ajay Chaudhary to be the first of the masterclass takers in this. We look forward to hearing his wisdom to all of us in this journey. Thank you, Dr. Ajay Chaudhary, once again, and wishing a very best to all fellow entrepreneurs and the participants on this masterclass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anil Kumar, for sharing your experience in your journey of agriculture entrepreneurship. A gentle reminder to all participants are encouraged to address their queries through the chat box only. Your questions will be answered by the end of the session. Now, it is time to welcome the chief guest of the day, Dr. Ajay Chaudhary. Sir is one of the 6 founders of HCL and former chairman of HCL Infosystems Limited. Dr. Ajay Chaudhary is one of the most esteemed personalities and has achieved major awards and appreciation in his field of work. Your efforts in semiconductor not only benefit the entire humankind, but also will promote the upcoming generations to strive for a better future, sir. Dr. Ajay Chaudhary is awarded the Electronic Man of the Year 2010 and is a member of the advisory board of Indian Semiconductor Mission. And he is also the chairman of EPIC Foundation. Dr. Ajay Chaudhary is the chairman of FICCI Startup Committee. He is the board member of Indian Angel Network, and I could go on and on about his endless achievements. We are eagerly waiting to listen to your aspiration and resource theory to motivate the startups to believe in C.K. Prahalad's word. Strategy is about stretching limited resources to fit ambitious aspirations. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Anupriya. And I think Anil has made a fantastic start to the evening by talking about time and timing, my favorite subjects. And specifically the point about how do you spot an opportunity? And in HCL, we used to have this concept which we used to talk about, and it was called noise to signal. In engineering, electrical engineering, you catch it at the noise level, not at the signal level. So if you actually catch an idea at the noise level, you will be far ahead of anybody else. So I think that's what it's all about. And I think very critically, very early days, you need to start to look at white spaces. Where are the white spaces in the market? Where is the opportunity? And interestingly, in the agri and food area, opportunities are huge, because I don't think we have even scratched the surface. And therefore, it's very interesting to look at this whole area and start to look for disruption in this area. And disruption fundamentally means dramatically improve what is being done today. So I think that's really the two areas that you could start with. Find it at the noise level and look at white spaces and look at disruption. Now, Anupriya talked about Dr. C.K. Prahlad's language of aspiration. And that's my favorite mathematical equation that Dr. Prahlad used to talk about. And it was called A is greater than R. So if you have the aspiration, resources will happen. Lot of times when startups look at their money and their whole resources, they think, oh God, I don't have money. I can't get started. I don't have the right people. I can't get started. But if you have the aspiration, then none of this matters. So really, when we were starting HCL, we had just 1.8 lakhs with us and 6 very hungry people. And these 6 hungry upstarts were fundamentally coming from a very large company. They gave up their jobs and then said, let's start a new business. Now, I can tell you many, many stories of the first few years where we laid the foundation of HCL. And our very first office, which was literally a little Barsati on top of our house in Delhi. In America, it's called a garage startup. In India, it's called the Barsati startup. So that's really where we started. You know, we were fundamentally, there were hardly any telephones available. We just had one telephone with great difficulty. And we all went around trying to figure out how to get it started. And initially, we looked at the funds that we had, which were very limited. So we said, why don't we do some marketing? Why don't we start some trading and start to get some cash flow in? And cash flow is at the center of entrepreneurship. If you have the cash flow, you will succeed. So that's really what we did. Started with a little company, which was called Microcomp, with 1.8 lakhs. We started marketing calculators, and we created the first model of what is called negative cash flow. Many, many years later, Dell came up with this great philosophy which said, negative cash flow is the way to run a hardware business. They don't even know that HCL knew that in 1975. So we actually used to go to a company called Televista. We would take a 60-day credit, and we would then collect our money in 10 to 15 days, so that we always had 40, 45 days of money available. And that's how we got started. That's how we got our initial cash flow. And those days, it was very critical to have a big company if you wanted to make computers. So there was no way, we were a startup, and there was no way we could get a license. So we spotted a license with the UP government, approached them, formed a joint sector company, and called ourselves Hindustan Computers Limited. And the name Hindustan was very important, because what did that name do to us? The name did something unique to us. It made us look much bigger than what we were. So when we used to meet any customer anywhere in the country, they would give us a lot of respect, because number one, we were called Hindustan. And number two, we were a joint sector company of UP government. So our entry into any customer was very, very easy. Now, I think what you need initially is a terrific strategy that you need to put in place. And you need to be very clear that when you're starting a startup, you should not have any fear. Because fear, frankly, is not an option when you start. And therefore, failure is not an option. And hence, that's how you start looking at life as you create your little entrepreneur's business. Well, when we started out, we went and hired the best people from different institutes. And you'll be surprised that when we started, we went to the Institute of Management in Calcutta, and we offered the highest salary in the country. And we said, look, come and join us. And we said, what we will do is that we will really put fire in you, and your brains will be on fire if you join HCL. And we had a beautiful campaign that actually talked about it. And then people turned around and said, great, you're a startup, you're just getting into computers, but why should we join you? I mean, we can get much better jobs in Hindustan Levers, etc., etc. Why should we join you? And we told them that, look, we are not offering you a job. We are offering you an adventure. And that's really how many good people joined HCL to start the business. Now, these are all things that, you have to create, you have to innovate, you have to think through, and you have to attract the best people to join you. Today, the country has a very favorable situation as far as startups are concerned. Those days, when we started, there was nothing called angels, there was nothing called VCs, and getting money was really close to impossible. Today, there are so many incubators and accelerators that Anil talked about and BG also talked about. I think fundamentally there is so much knowledge available, so much support available from the government, and there are many, many, many angel investors, close to 2,500 angel investors, close to about 10, 15 angel networks, and many, many VCs. So I think there is a great opportunity to get money today. Money is no longer an issue when you get started. However, what is really the issue? The real issue is that you must have a great idea and you must have a great team. If you do not have a complementary team and you go to an angel or a VC, they will not accept you, because it's the team in which they invest, not just the idea. And the quality of team matters. The composition of the team matters. What do I mean by composition? If you have one person who's technical, the other person is financial, the third person is very good at sales, that's a great combination. And that's the kind of combination that you need to create when you actually get started. So I think, you also have to dream. If you don't dream, you don't create. Okay. And what was our dream in HCL? We said, let's take the microprocessor and change the world. I mean, we were a startup, we were making such a big statement, but that is really what it's all about. Having a dream and making it happen. I think that's what it's all about. Once I remember I was giving a presentation and a young man walked in and said, I'd like to talk to you. And we sat down and chatted. And he said, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm very excited after hearing what you've said. So I said, what's your idea? He said, I've got 3 ideas. I said, look, guy, at this moment, if you get confused with 3 ideas, then you will not succeed. Have just one very good idea and get going. Don't get into this situation of having multiple ideas and trying to follow multiple ideas. It is completely a waste of time. Now, those are the kind of things that you need to get started with. You need to have that idea and you need to have a good fix on your market and a good fix on what are your differentiators going to be. If you do not have a differentiator, then if you get into the market, you are getting into a very crowded market. So you should be having a very clear idea of how you differentiate your company. You may differentiate it by technology. You may differentiate it by the way you are marketing and selling your product. You can differentiate by having a methodology which has never been done before, or you may be doing something which is so unique that it will take people a long time to come up to that. So those are the kind of things to get going. You know, when we started out, we started out saying that, okay, we'll start making computers and selling it to first-time users. But a lot of those first-time users had never seen a computer before. And therefore, we needed to actually sell them the concept of buying a computer. Why should they buy a computer? And we also introduced a concept of saying, we'll give it to you on an EMI model, and we would actually calculate the return on investment for that. And each of our salespeople was taught to calculate the return on investment. So those are the kind of things that you do. And when markets are at an early stage and you've only scratched the surface, you should not go by conventional thinking. Let's say the market is 500 million and growing at 20% per year. It does not mean that you should grow at 15 to 20% per year. If you create a breakthrough product, you may be able to grow at 40% a year. So, you know, this is all old kind of thinking that market is growing at 15, I can also go at 15. Why? I mean, you should question that. And if you have a breakthrough product, maybe you can do it a whole lot faster. So I think the key to it is having the gumption to take risks and the gumption to be able to create a very different concept of what you're trying to do. When we started phone marketing in this country, we picked up Nokia from Finland, brought them to India. And that time the market was completely brand new. Nothing had been done. Many people were trying to sell phones in the country. They were very unsuccessful. And the model that time was that you needed to sell the phone and the service together. So you would actually go and sell it to Airtel, who would then sell it to the customer. We changed the complete model. And we said, how will we differentiate in the market is by going direct to customer through a distribution model. And that distribution model was so unique. We had 100 resellers all over the country who had a lot of money. They were actually people who used to sell soaps. So we said, why can't a phone be sold like a soap? And therefore we took a FMCG model and used it for phones. And you will be shocked that in 5 to 7 years, we went from $0 to $2 billion. And we brought Nokia to 70% market share in the country. So the differentiation need not necessarily be through a product. The differentiation may be through the distribution approach you are taking up. Each of these creates opportunities for you. Sometimes a lot of startups come and talk to me and say, we can't keep differentiating all the time. I agree, you can't keep differentiating all the time. But why can't you do something different? And I call it temporary monopolies. Temporary monopolies are all about looking at a differentiator today, and then for 6 months, you have that differentiator. 6 months later, think of something else and keep on creating temporary monopolies. And that keeps you ahead of competition. So that's really kind of concepts that are used to be able to succeed in a very, very competitive and a difficult market like India, where, you know, you need to be very clear that you want to be different. Now, one of the biggest reasons why HCL was successful was that we were afflicted by a disease called optimism. And optimism is what it's all about. If you are not optimist, you can never succeed. So that's really what it is. We created this whole team around fantastic optimism, fantastic passion, and fire in the belly. All these are things that are absolutely essential to make a success of your startup. And as you start to grow, as you start to scale, you can definitely go global. So you need to be thinking from the beginning that I am going to start in India make myself successful, and then I will go global. So start thinking very early about going to global markets. That the sales and service are a very critical aspect of success of a startup. A lot of startups think I have the greatest product in the world, but they don't know how to sell it. That's completely a waste of time. So be very clear that if you have a great product, you must know how to sell it really, really well. And the models for sales are changing. Yesterday, you had a different model. Today, you have a very different model. And why is that? The reason for it is that communication and IT have changed everything. Social media has also made a huge impact. And telling a good story has become the most important piece. So if you have a great story and you can tell it really well, then the authenticity comes through. And in a B2B model also, you can sell even online. Some of those things have been done by some companies in, like for example, there's a company called Atlassian in Australia. They sell a B2B product. They don't have a single salesperson. I mean, most times when you sell B2B, you always have to have salespeople. These guys created a model by which they could sell everything online till they became very, very big. Today, they're more than $1 billion corporation. When I first read about them, they were 100 million and not a single salesperson. So, these are the kind of newer ways of sales and service that have come around. And you need to be able to understand those kind of things that are there today, in addition to the way we used to do things before. And if you want to go global, first thing is to get your team excited about the challenge. You must discuss with your team and say, hey team, we are going to sit together and we will go global in the next 6 months. This is what we want to do. This is how we will do it. And you need to start to involve them at a very early stage. Again, differentiating is something that I did talk about. And we did something very unique in HCL. When we wanted to go for a listing in the stock exchange, we didn't have enough orders in hand to get a great valuation. So we did something different. We went and told our customers that if you give us a $75 million order, we will give you part of the company. So we did something different. We did customer stock option rather than a employee stock option. And that's something that has never been done before and has never been done since. But it is something that, again, we did with a lot of gumption, and we were sure that we would be successful. And you'll be surprised that when we went for a listing, we had money 23 times more than what we wanted. So, that's how you actually succeed and look at how you want to grow your business. And I think at the end of the day, it's a great team that wins. And that's what you need to create. Now, if I look at this whole multi-billion-dollar opportunity in the agri and food space, and when I started to sort of dig a little bit about where it is and what's happening and where is it all going, I mean, interestingly, as Anil said, it's a very fragmented market. Small farmers, traditional knowledge. The industry doesn't really run on high profits, and very unorganized logistics. And, a lot of people talk about technology, but most of them is not something that they really understand and do well. And hugely, I would agree with Anil that collaboration is the key in this business. It's collaboration that will actually make things happen. So I have also seen that there is a trend for moving from startups from B2C to B2B. And I think that's a very interesting movement that is I have seen. B2C segment is higher margins, but operationally very intensive. So I think if we look at various opportunities that are there in agritech today, supply chain, market linkage, what is called digital agriculture, whole bunch of support for inputs, and farming as a service is something very interestingly that's emerged in the last few years. I have a friend of mine who created this company called EM3, and EM3 today rents out tractors to various farmers all over the country. And then they started initially with tractors, and then they went and signed up with a whole bunch of other products, and then they just rent out these products to farmers, and farmers just use it for a couple of days or 5 days or 4 days, and that becomes a terrific model for providing services to farmers. I think another area of technology impact is big data analytics. This is a huge area which is making waves within the agri space also. And this is something that I've seen being used by many companies today. And they fundamentally use this along with IoT and data analytics and decision support to provide support to farmers and other players in the supply chain. So there are a whole bunch of companies I have spotted: Cropin, Agris, Agnex, SkyMet, whole bunch of them. And they're all into this whole area of using technology and supporting farmers through that. And of course, there are a whole bunch of startups based on supply chain models and market linkage models also. So very interestingly, we are seeing a great technology impact in agriculture with many kinds of startups. And there are so many IoT enabled agritech startups with everybody is using a whole bunch of sensors all over the place, and everybody is also looking at how do we, I mean, the biggest issue always in farming has been yield. So how do we improve yield? And that's where technology comes in for you to start to look at improving yield so that you get more out of the farmland that you actually have. So I think these are all very interesting opportunities that are all staring at us and will continue to grow. And interestingly, a lot of them will lend themselves to online, because our online piece has started to take off in a big way. But as you move towards more value addition, then you need to go into food processing. And that's where you go from input to output and improve your ratios quite dramatically. And there is huge changes that are taking place. During COVID times, for example, the need for products like processed products like packaged foods dramatically increased. And I think those are the kind of segments that have opened up in a big way. So people are now talking globally. I mean, you look at Facebook and you visit Facebook and you see whole bunch of products being marketed globally about wellness. So wellness has become a very big deal. And around wellness is whole bunch of interesting products that you can create through what you can buy or build and go on to create some ideas where you can actually sell wellness products and health products and stuff like that. I mean, in India, you could actually add haldi to milk and create a new product, which would be very something that a lot of people would value. So I think this is the kind of opportunities that exist. And even if you look at the dairy area, you look at the meat area, all those are areas that are starting to see a lot of traction. And I happen to talk to the founders of Licious about a year ago, and look at what they've created. And it was completely a white space. They were looking at, everybody in India and all over the world thinks that India doesn't eat meat. I mean, India really eats meat in all parts of the country. And they sort of showed me numbers which was very intrigued to know that how many people in Tamil Nadu eat non-vegetarian food, and in Karnataka, how many of them eat non-vegetarian food. The numbers are quite mind-boggling. So you should not go on knowledge which is totally secondary. You should go with very deep primary knowledge and be able to suss out the market in a different way, that's just the way Licious did. I mean, today they are able to deliver a product in half an hour to 1 hour, and it's absolutely fresh. It could be fish, it could be prawns, it could be meat, it could be chicken, whatever. And they are growing like crazy. So this is like what I'm talking about. These are the kind of opportunities that exist in the country. And I'm seeing that there are production linked incentive schemes also coming up in agriculture. So obviously these kind of opportunities will also grow. And I think exports is something that literally everyone needs to start to look very early days, because the markets give you very good pricing, very good profits. And I have a friend who does huge amount of marine exports and very, very successful. And he sells his product into Japan. And I was quite shocked that he was able to sell his fish into Japan, but that's the way it is. If you go deep into the market and understand what the customer wants, then you can definitely sell a product which you think you cannot sell. So it's pretty much like Licious, where people thought that Indians don't eat meat. It's the same way with fish being sold to Japan. So I think don't go with the unknowns. Don't go with half-baked ideas. Go with very deep knowledge, understand the market. It doesn't mean that you keep polishing the apple. I mean, I'm very particular about this line that I always use. Don't keep polishing the apple. Sometimes people polish the apple so much that the skin comes off. So don't get into this data. At a certain stage, after you've got the data, take a decision. At the end of the day, any business person takes a decision based on guts, and take that decision. Don't keep delaying it, because timing is very important. And as Anil right in the beginning talked about time, I also talk about timing. Time and timing are two very critical aspects of making yourself successful. So maybe this is where I will end and open up for questions, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your
wisdom and being a motivation for all the budding entrepreneurs for turning their dreams into reality. I'm sure your infectious optimism will forever keep their fire of ambition burning inside these entrepreneurs. The topic for the next masterclass will be announced at the end of the session, and a feedback form will also be circulated. So please stay tuned. With that, now the forum is open for Q&A session. Entrepreneurs, shoot your questions in the chat box. Now, we'll go ahead and take some of the questions already registered on the chat box. So, sir, this is a question from Cholin Selvan. We are in agri-produce supply chain in B2B in tier 2 or 3 cities. Our model is fetching gross margin of 30% and our EBITDA is 2 to 3%. If we try in increasing this, volume reduces. So whether we need to settle with this or EBITDA and concentrate in the volumes. So I request the esteemed speakers to share your thoughts on this.
Well, actually, this is a problem that faces every entrepreneur. And At certain stage, you need to look at growth, but at a certain stage, you need to look at profitability. And that is something that you need to decide based on your investments that you're getting into the company. Because a lot of companies have been destroyed by just grow model, which has been something that a lot of VCs have promoted. I'm of the opinion that you need to grow, but you need to make sure that you are not out of pocket. And yes, in the beginning, you can grow by cash flow, but at some stage, you have to grow with profit.
Thank you, sir. Anil, sir, would you like to share your views on this?
No, this is perfect.
Thank you, sir.
We have to balance both, is the message, which I completely agree with Dr. Ajay Chaudhary.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions? Please shoot in the question and answer session. Looks like there's another question. Sir, with IoT device coming in and contributing to precision agriculture, what do you think about satellite imagery there? Is it the former empowers the later?
You see, there are so many ways to get information. You can get through satellite, you can get through drones, and you can get it directly through IoT devices. So it depends on an application. And depending on the application, you decide what form of technology you use and what is appropriate for that particular application. So there's no single answer for this. I think today the opportunities are so many. I mean, yesterday you had only satellite. Today you have drones, and drones give you real data of what is happening. But IoT gives you a very different kind of data, because that is absolutely on the ground, and that will give you the most accurate response. But it all depends on the application.
Thank you, sir.
So there is another question in the chat box. Is a co-founder necessary, or can you go alone as well?
I would never suggest you go alone, because I, as an investor, will not give you money. And the reason I won't give you money is that I don't believe that single founder companies are successful. And why are they not successful? They really don't have anybody to go to when they get into trouble. When they have 2 or 3 founders, they can chat with each other, discuss issues, come up with solutions, and bounce ideas. When you're all alone, it's very tough. As it is, entrepreneurship is a very, very lonely journey.
Very true, sir. With that, yes, sir.
I would like to just add to Dr. Ajay Chaudhary, because I believe that co-founder has 2 dimensions. One dimension is the economic ownership dimension. The second dimension is the founding team that has come together with the purpose for which the organization came as a belief. Right? So it's important not to just look at co-founder only from the economic ownership perspective, but who are the co-founders who conceptualized and gave birth to this company from the purpose dimension? What motivated the initial set of people? Because many people do take risky calls, do make sacrifices when they start initially. As he mentioned, the garage startup, one is, of course, the one who is bringing in capital and who is in the driver's seat, but there are the founding team members who come in with a lot of sacrifices and risk. So the co-founding from a support perspective has to be a larger group, where at regular intervals you go back to that team and say, hey, we are together in this, and how do we support each other in that? So expand this group on the basis of the purpose for which you came together initially, and connect with them emotionally. That's what I would say.
There's another reason, Anil, where I wouldn't invest in a single person company. And that is, I always have this fear that it will become a lifestyle company. A lifestyle company is a company that lives for making money for himself and doesn't bother about growth, doesn't bother about valuation. I'm getting so much profit, I'm making so much money, and I'm very happy. And I'm, as there was a beautiful campaign that was run by Z TV many years ago, where there was Shah Rukh Khan, and he used to always say, "Main bahut santusht hu." Santusht means I'm happy, I don't need to do anything more. And that's what these companies are, these lifestyle companies. They are santusht, they are happy, they don't need to do any more, they're making good enough money, and they don't need to bother about investors.
Thank you, sir. So there's one more question from Vijay Purohit. Sir, good evening and a pleasure to speak with you. Wanted to know your views on centralized food tech parks as some of the initial parks were not utilized and a failure to attract users.
I think it's all a question of creating the complete supply chain. And unless these large food parks that are being created look at a full supply chain with everything included, storage, warehousing, logistics, and right location. A lot of times, many of these parks are created without looking at a lot of the important issues. And unless you have the complete ecosystem created, you will find very difficult to attract people to come there. And that's why they have not been successful in a lot of areas.
So this is a question from Vikas Kabra. Which subsector in agtech looks attractive from your perspective? Market linkage, agri input, full stack, big data, or IoT?
A tough one. It fundamentally is something that would be decided by you based on your domain knowledge, and also based on what you feel will make the growth happen. It can't just be, I'm very happy doing 50 crores. No. You will have to look at, can I do 100? Can I do 200? Can I do 500? And that's how you select an area which will grow in the manner that you want it to grow. So there's no single answer for something like this.
Yes, sir. So the next question is from PD Shetty Padmaraj. Any suggestion on setting up large ESOP pool up to 20% to attract more entrepreneurial personnel in the startup?
You see, employee stock option program is an absolute essential part of creating a startup. And I would always encourage you to have as much of employee stock option program that you want to put together, but 20% is pretty high. I would feel that somewhere around 10 to 15% is good enough. And you need to be able to challenge people to create value for that 10 to 15%. It's not the percentage that's more important, it's the value that you create. And at the end of the day, the startup succeeds when the valuations happen. Right in the beginning, when you're getting angel funding, don't bother about valuations. Just get the money. But once you have got the money and you started to show growth and you've got profits, start looking at valuations.
Yes, sir. The next question is from Veena Adityan. What is the readiness of the market to embrace innovations at the farm level? There are proven IoT solutions that have helped dairy farmers massively improve production. But is the Indian ecosystem ready?
A lot of times we think the ecosystem is not ready, and therefore you don't dip your foot. But how about going and creating the ecosystem? If you create something, you will be the first to do it. So I don't think you should run away from thinking that I'm going to do something different, I'm going to create something, and I'm going to create a market, I'm going to create a model. I don't think you should worry about that. If you feel you have the confidence to do it, go do it.
Yes, sir. So,
This is a question from Kashmir.
so Vansha, we are an early stage agri-tech company based in Kashmir, working in Apple value chain, providing end-to-end supply chain services. What is the best time to approach the investor in order to scale up?
You know, the initial stage of starting a company is the angel and seed stage. Angel and seed stage is preceded by getting money from friends and family. So if you have already shown performance and you have customers, then you get angel money. Without that, you don't get angel money. But once you've grown beyond a point and you want to scale, that's when you go for VC money. So I think it's a question of timing. And first few years, 4-5 years is when you work with seed money, angel money. And then at the end of that 3 to 4 year period, look for VC money. And as I told earlier, at that time, the game becomes all about valuations. Are we done?
There's the same question from Open saying, we need to be profitable before raising investment.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Some VCs are quite happy to even invest when you're not profitable, but they do want to see a plan where you break even in 2 years or 3 years and you start making profits. But if you show a plan which says I'm going to make money after 10 years, nobody will give you money.
Yes, sir.
Those days are gone. The Flipkart days are gone.
So thank you, sir. This is a question from Cholin Selvan. So my question is to Anil, sir. There are MSPs for many commodities in our country. In a long run, is there any possibility of getting MSPs from government for perishable commodities?
Sorry, Mr. Selvan, I would not know about it. You know, I don't know about it. That's the answer. I don't want to speculate. Sorry, I don't know.
I believe, Anil, MSP is a crutch. And crutch is best avoided if you want to have a startup which is successful.
Yes, sir. So the next question is from Vikash Kabra. Where are we in terms of agtech journey in India today? Is it similar to when e-commerce got started in 2008 in India, or are we slightly ahead?
Well, EdTech has been booming along for the last 5 years. And now what you're seeing is reality. There was just a lot of unreal companies out there. A lot of companies that were, as I call, vaporware. And they were just not having the right business model. During COVID, everybody assumed that the market will go 100% online. It did not happen. And it won't happen. Because EdTech is not just about online. The most successful models globally are also hybrid models, where you have both offline and online. So I think reality has hit EdTech. No longer are people just pouring money into EdTech at all. It's tough to get money today for EdTech. So in some manners, EdTech has gone through multiple, I would say, conversions, not just revolutions. You go back to the earlier days when there were these companies who were bundling, content and hardware and selling it to schools. They all vanished because their business models were not tenable. So then came the next lot, which are the Baijus, etc., etc. They are also facing phenomenal amount of headwinds today. And a lot of them have realized that the game is not just online. So we'll have to still watch this space. opportunity still exists, but I think too many mistakes have been made by too many entrepreneurs, and too many VCs have put too much money.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is a question again to Anil, sir. What is your take on hydroponic agriculture and vertical farms? Will that serve as a better method to cultivate versus traditional farming? Because there is a level of control and automation we can bring into this type of farmings.
I think both have their places. The vertical farming and hydroponics, others are classified under what is called urban farming, where you don't have land. And it makes sense to grow only specific kinds of, fruits and vegetables, basically, right? The traditional farming would encompass everything else, right? So both have their places. We certainly see a lot of energy and enthusiasm in the urban farming. And in fact, some of the nations like, Singapore and like Singapore have been promoting vertical farming significantly to take care of their domestic needs, because there is no land available for cultivation. So urban areas, smaller places where land is constrained, would have to make the investments in these urban farming techniques, which are capital intensive and are promising. Traditional agriculture will continue.
Thank you, sir. So we'll take our last couple of questions. Sir, you talked about the lifestyle company. When should one learn that it is time to raise funds? Is it necessary to raise funds from private investors? Because we are in bootstrapping stage and it has been 2 years since we started, and yet in a product development stage, where we have recently started getting a few customers with our first product release. It has future release as well.
As long as you've been able to prove the model and you've got customers, you should be able to get angel funding.
This will be a last question for the session. Will angels and VC open to explore and invest in startups where the old model has failed and reinvented a more powerful model?
I could understand that question.
So once their earlier model has failed and now they have started a new model, so will angels and VCs be open to invest in an already failed model, which has now been reinvented?
You see, this is called pivoting in the industry. You start with something and then pivot to something else. As long as the pivot has value, people will invest.
Thank you, sir. It looks like we have covered most of the questions. Now, I welcome Mr. B. Gopalakrishnan,
sir, for his closing remarks.
What a fantastic session it is. And really happy to see my bosses in the same frame, the current as well as my earlier boss. So thank you very much, sir, because it is coming from my heart. The energy which I saw the way back during my HCL days, still it is the same energy, same enthu. And whenever we ask for support for the startup, which is really coming from the mind, thank you very much once again for making this occasion. Especially with respect to the startups, as you pointed out very specifically, there are tons of ideas which is available in the market. Their ideas are commodity, but the execution is very, very crucial. That is what one of the takeaway which I can say. A startup is a company that is confused about what is a product, who is a customer, and how to make money out of the product to meet the customers. So some of the key takeaways for the sessions are take risk. That is what Anil spoke about, because you have to take risk, because entrepreneurship is all about taking risk with a very clear support ecosystem which is available. You have to collaborate more, because often we hear this word collaborate, and energize yourself. And especially agriculture ecosystem, which has got $1 trillion or more than that opportunity, because without food, nobody can sustain or nobody can live in this world. So there are every opportunity which is available. That is what Anil spoke about, and he said very specifically about when you double click, there is a segment, there is a subsegment, there is a subsegment which is coming. You have to have a clear vertical knowledge, have a deeper insights, so that whatever you start, you will able to make an impact in your journey of entrepreneurship. With respect to Dr. Ajay Chaudhary, he emphasized the importance of team, because I 100% accept with the saying of team is very crucial, because passionate people create a purposeful company, because you are all working for a larger purpose, and the passionate with the perseverance, you have to identify it, because most of the time you have to sell, you have to solve problem, you have to sell your idea, then you have to organize, thereby you create a larger organization. And he also talked about think global, because don't ever be constrained with your respect to, okay, I am from this region, I will focus only on this region. Whenever you build a company, think of global, taking your idea beyond the borders, so that you will be recognized. But for building a global company, you need the right amount of people, right amount of strategy, which will make you to go beyond that one. And he also said, either in the distribution nor in the product, and you create a temporary monopoly, and you need to have a lot of importance of optimism, because which is very, very important, because we still remember, because whenever we discuss with him, he will say that, okay, this is not the target has been increased. And still he'll say that as a team, you can do it. But when you go back after 3 months, we will say that, yes, boss, we are very nearer to 98%, we are nearer to 99%. So the optimism is very, very important when you build a company. And he also said the unique and the differentiator has to be when we create a unique product for a customer. And he also emphasized the deeper knowledge, the vertical knowledge is very crucial when you wanted to do something. And really appreciate the wisdom which has been shared by both the leaders. And definitely we are all really blessed to have your wisdom in this discussion. And definitely we thank you very much for the one. So over to Anupriya.
Thank you, sir, for making us
Relive the session with your precise briefing. Repeating on what Mr. VG said, what a wonderful session it was. Now, I call upon Ms. Geetanjali to propose the vote of thanks for the event. Thank you, Anu, for
handing over the session to me.
You're mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Anu, for handing over the session to me. On behalf of the entire Samunati family, I would like to thank Dr. Ajay Chaudhary for sharing his knowledge and insights. I'm sure that it would have been helpful for the agri-entrepreneurs to develop their venture into a well-established business. Also, I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Anil Kumar SG for sharing his words of wisdom. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the agtech startups, food sector startups, stakeholders, innovators, and our pool of incubators, because without them, this wouldn't have been possible. And also, we recommend you to follow us on social media for regular updates on the masterclass event. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, boss. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.